I can't believe that it's been over 10 years since I started making 3D video on YouTube. It's mind-boggling. Way back then, when I started, there was not much 3D content. You had your Blu-rays like your Monsters vs. Aliens or your Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, but those were CG cartoon movies. And I wanted to do live movies or live video with 2 cameras. So the first video I did was of a mini golf course. There were these waterfalls that came over some rocks. And I had a big old camera from the 90s that recorded onto magnetic tape. And I had a little digital camcorder that I had just bought off of eBay used. And the little digital camcorder probably had some sort of memory card or well, not a card, but it had built-in memory so it could record on that. And it was about probably a 640 by 480 or something. It was a square. It was not 16:9, it was the old square one. So it matched the 90s camcorder pretty well. But the little camcorder was little and the other one was big. So I had to boost this one up so that it would have a level, lenses would be level for the vertical alignment. And so it was pretty difficult, pretty rudimentary, and pretty bad, I'm sure. And that video doesn't exist anymore. For some reason, some years ago, I went through my YouTube channel and looked at all the videos that didn't have a lot of views. That was one of them, and I deleted it. So the first video I ever posted is gone, as far as I know. I don't know, maybe you can find it on the internet. I couldn't find it on my YouTube channel. But good luck if you want to go find it. One of the things that I made for content was a show called Dual Eye TV. Now, some of Dual Eye TV I thought was pretty funny, but some of it I'd rather forget. It's kind of embarrassing, but I don't know. I don't know if you want to watch it or not, but be warned. So it was sort of a variety show. I did a magic trick. I would review something, maybe a movie at the time or something like that. And then a couple of skits that I thought were funny. So Dual Eye TV was one of my series, and then I did a series called WH Game Hideout, where I would review video games.
Doctor, what's that ahead?
The sensors are picking up an asteroid field ahead. Everyone should get strapped into their seat. Under no circumstances should anyone fall out of their seat and go crawling across the floor. I'm not insured for that. What did I just say?
Welcome to WH Game Hideout. And I would make different 3D effects, and usually I tried to stick to 3D video games. So the PS3 could run video games in 3D, and at the time they had just remastered some of their old games, like the God of War series, and well, some of it. And then Sly Cooper, they did a remaster of 3D for Sly Cooper, and they were already making the Uncharted 3 in 3D and things like that. Now, there's an interesting thing that I'll tell you about in the live streaming section, so look out for that. A little bit of the history of the cameras that I have gone through over the years. I buy them on eBay used usually, and then I'll sell them once I get tired of them or I want to upgrade. And the first 2 cameras that I was able to get that actually matched were JVC cameras. And I bought one at a time. They were very expensive. It was over $300 for one camera. So I bought 2 of them. They were about this wide because they had an actual hard drive on the side. So when you put those suckers together, they were really wide. The lenses were very far apart. So they're great for maybe a landscape shot, but they're not a good shot for these close-up shots and medium shots that I was usually using for YouTube. So while they were really great camcorders and I did what I could with them, I had to move on from that. I think next I got a couple of Sony cameras, and they were interesting cameras. They were very thin, and they had a little thing that would pop out on the side, a door, and you could put a disc inside there, a little laser disc type thing. And well, maybe it's not a laser disc, but you know, it's like a little CD, mini DVD type thing. And I got a couple of those. They were very skinny, so I could put them right next to each other. And so I got some pretty good shots with that. In fact, there was an interesting feature on those cameras that I used a couple of times, and that is you could do, I think, 10 seconds of super slow motion. So I had a thing on one of the series that I produced was the WH Game Hideout. And on there I had an intro where rocks would come flying out of the screen.
The Earth, a civilization of people existing upon its surface, harbors another civilization deep in its very core. Deep in its very core.
And those rocks were the slow motion. I threw a bunch of little, they were like black foam pieces at the camera, and it looked like rocks coming out, so that's what I used them for. Also, I did a video where I threw ice and broke ice and in slow motion and some water balloons, so you can look that up if you haven't seen them already. After Justin TV became Twitch and people were playing video games and I figured out what was going on, I said, hey, I could play video games with side-by-side 3D thanks to TriDepth 3D. And I wanted to try to figure out how to make a 3D webcam or face cam, because everybody had the little face cam in the corner of their Twitch thing with their face there. So they call them face cams. So anyway, I was saying, okay, so I got to figure out a way to put camera input into my computer. And at the time, I had gotten a couple of these cameras. These are the Panasonic Lumix GH2. This is a really good camera. It's got a little tiny TV lens on it. That's because I used to use little tiny mirrors in a mirror rig, and so they had to be very close to the mirrors in order to work correctly. This one's got a dummy battery that I can plug into the wall so that I can power it infinitely, so to speak. So this is already set up for live streaming. The cool thing about these cameras is they had an HDMI output that was clean and had no data on the screen. So that's what I needed. And I had a couple of these cameras, and these have pretty good dynamic range. They're very nice looking cameras. I still like them today, even though they're only 8-bit. So I took I bought a couple of Blackmagic Intensity HDMI input cards and put them in my computer. And then I plugged these cameras into it. And what do you know, using OBS, it actually, they were live, so they were basically synced already. Every once in a while I would start OBS and one would be out of sync. And all I would have to do is shut OBS down, bring it back up, and they'd be in sync again. And they would last for hours and hours while I was playing. I've never had a problem with them going out of sync once I had them in sync once I started the program.
Mess with the truck, you get the trailer.
So that's a little bit of the history of live streaming, other than, remember what I said about the PS3 and the 3D games? Well, also Xbox 360 had 3D games every once in a while. Like they had Gears of War 3. So a friend of mine online called Ice Wolf actually showed me that Gears of War 3 had a side-by-side, or maybe it was top-bottom, I don't remember what it was, but it was actually in 3D. It wasn't great 3D, it was more like the TriDepth Power 3D, so it was sort of a fakey type 3D. It wasn't true stereoscopic 3D like you get on the PS3. But now, here's the story with the PS3. I took the GH2 cameras and I put a lens from the glasses for my 3D TV on one camera and a lens, the other lens, on the other camera, and pointed them at my 3D TV, plugged them into my computer, and live streamed PS3 games in stereoscopic 3D. I think that's probably the first time anybody's ever done that. It's probably the last time anybody's ever going to do that, because it is a headache and a half to try to get it all lined up and everything, and I was able to make a side-by-side image out of that. It was interesting, but I don't ever want to do it again. 3D is very difficult. You can point a camera at something, focus it up, and it looks great. You can get real close to it, you can get your fingerprints, all that kind of stuff. But if you're talking about 3D, that's a whole other story. You can't do that kind of thing. You can't just go, oh, I want to get my fingerprints in 3D. If you wanted to get your fingerprints in 3D, the lenses would have to be on top of each other. So you'd have to have some sort of mirror or prism rig to be able to do that. It's just almost impossible. It has been done. People have gotten like flowers really close up, butterflies on flowers really close up, that kind of thing. But I'm pretty sure they had a prism set up or a mirror set up. 3D is so difficult. Like I said, with a regular camera, you can just take a shot. Whether it's close, medium, far, wide shots, you can put different lenses on your camera, whatever you want. With 3D, you have to make sure everything's aligned vertically and horizontally. You have to make sure the cameras are at certain distances for certain shots and all that kind of thing. It's so difficult. That's why so many directors have said, like the guy who did the Aliens versus Cowboys, he said that he wouldn't do it in 3D even though there was a 3D trailer. I saw the 3D trailer in 3D and I was kind of excited because it looked really good. It was somebody had probably used a 3D camera to make that trailer, or they used incredible converting software, but it looked amazing. And then I found out the director said, no, I'm not shooting this in 3D. Weird. So anyway, people just don't want to do it. It's just a lot of trouble. I've seen some movies where they've shot it in 3D and they might as well not have shot it in 3D because the person that was the stereographer made the camera so close together, the stereo base was so small that there's only a tiny bit of depth between objects. It's like a little tiny bit compared to having actually a reality. Like this image right here, it's not exactly what I would want in 3D, but it's adequate. I like 3D that breathes, you know, it's like there's a lot of room, but you know, it may be called hyper 3D, the kind of 3D I like. I don't like cardboard 3D. When YouTube started 3D, they had Flash as their delivery system for their videos. And with Flash, they were able to give you a menu at the bottom where you could choose to not have it in 3D, so it would run in 2D. You could have interlaced for 3D TVs and projectors. You could have top-bottom. You could have side-by-side. I think they even had checkerboard back then. I don't know. They had a lot of things you can choose. And of course, there's the old standby anaglyph, red and blue, or red and green, or whatever color your glasses might be. Back then, you had all those choices. Plus, I think they started doing Google Cardboard soon after that, so you also had a choice of Google Cardboard if you were on a cell phone or a smartphone. And you could put your smartphone into a Google Cardboard and watch it like it was VR. Then they changed from Flash to HTML5, and a lot of that stuff went away. You only had, on PC, you had anaglyph, and on certain browsers like Firefox and Opera, there was a button for VR where you could use a VR headset. And on a cell phone, you had anaglyph, and you had a button for Google Cardboard. And then I think, yeah, that was it. Yeah. And you could turn it to 2D if you didn't want to watch it. Now, early in 2023, some of that has been lost. Now on PC, you see it as side-by-side. If it's uploaded correctly, you see it as side-by-side. And then on a smartphone, you get it as anaglyph. You might get the Google Cardboard icon, but I don't remember seeing it. And then you can also get it in VR using the MetaQuest 2 headset and the YouTube VR app. But we no longer have anaglyph on PC, which I believe is a big problem because a lot of people still want to use the blue and red glasses. It's the easiest way to view 3D, and almost everybody can get that kind of equipment. Not everybody has a side-by-side compatible 3D TV or projector. So hopefully YouTube will fix that and we'll have some really good future 3D like we used to. If you want to see more about how I make 3D videos, go to patreon.com/wheatstonehomes. I considered becoming a member because I have all kinds of stuff up there, like tutorials about how I sync the cameras and how I edit. I also throw some videos up there for general audience, so you don't have to be a member to see some of those. I throw things on there that I've never shown on YouTube before, so consider going to patreon.com/wheatstonehomes and becoming a member. Thanks for watching for all of these 10 plus years. I know you probably haven't watched that long, but hopefully we have another 10 years or more ahead of us, and I'll see you next time in stereoscopic 3D. Keep your glasses on. I had an old camera from the 90s that would record onto magnetic media, a magnetic tape, if you can believe that. I guess you have to because it's true. Well, you don't have to, but that's what I'm telling you. As soon as the dogs are done barking. I can't believe that it's, wait a minute. I can't believe that it's been over 10 years since I started making